Are you going to the rink on Friday?
I've got Hayward Medal on Friday. I've got a few things Friday, so no.
I think you got a few things every day until you get re-elected.
What time are they doing the opening? I'm not sure if I haven't been great on my emails last week, but what time are they doing the opening?
Grand opening is 6 p.m.
Yeah, no, the Hayward's at 5:30, so.
Yeah.
I've never been invited to Hayward before. I was never in the running to win one, of course. So
what is that?
Hayward Medal was like the Southwest League Brownlow Medal.
Oh, really?
Do a full vote count on that, yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So what's your position? Just being the mayor, I guess?
Yeah, which is, even though it covers 7 local governments, I'm not sure all the other show presence will be there, but it's okay, mate. I think obviously the sort of relationship we built over the last 12 months has been pretty good with the Southwest Footy League, of course.
Yeah, bloody oath. Did you catch Durack Tucker's podcast the other day?
No.
So Durack Tucker played for, or was drafted by Sydney.
Yeah.
And spent 12 months sitting on the sidelines with an injury, unfortunately, and then ended up getting let go.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know he had played for the AFL or anything.
Yep.
And, got him on the podcast and just
so he was on your podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, when did you do that?
It was posted, get that microphone close, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was posted 2 weeks ago now.
Okay.
And I didn't promote it at all because I've just come back from Lebanon. I didn't promote it at all while I was away, and I came back and had people messaging me about it. And I looked at the stats on YouTube. I'm like, I didn't really do anything crazy. He's telling me like, dude, like I'm having everyone talk to me about this podcast. I then did one promotion on Instagram, collab with him. That blew up. And then he played a game on the weekend, and he said, I just had people coming up to me all after the game saying, listen to your podcast, blah, blah, blah. I checked the audio-only stats.
Right.
It is by far the best performing podcast I've ever done.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so apparently people like AFL in this town.
They do, mate.
Yeah. Who knew?
Hopefully they remember, mate. Hope they remember North Melbourne.
Bloody oath. But yeah, the reopening of the rink on Friday, I'm so fucking excited. I'm excited that it's not dead.
Yep.
You know?
And I know I had a couple of the skaters out there, part of the clubs and that, had emailed me, what could we do? And we're so happy to chat about that when we jump into it. Because they got me out there when we had last year, we had the international, should get this right actually. It was the international or the Australian-wide dance skating competition in Bunbury.
Really?
Yeah. But they did it at the sports facility.
They did too. Yeah, right.
But they got me out because they invited me part of it, and I said, "Oh, let's get part of it." And I said, "I'm going to do it. Let's do it properly." So I joined in.
Unreal.
Skating. So they got me out the rink for like lessons with them. Fucked, mate. I fell over all the time.
Yeah, it's so hard. And this is the thing, like me being extraordinarily good on rollerblades, I'm like, yeah, you motherfuckers don't understand what it takes to get average, let alone really good.
I think I was pretty good 20 years ago, mate. But yeah, they got me good.
Yeah,
and we can get into that as well because I went out there and had some sessions with it. So my role was to ride out with all the kids. It was pretty embarrassing. I didn't fall over on the main stage, mate. So.
That's all that matters. That was the nationals for artistic skating.
Artistic skating, that's right. At the sports centre.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nationals was the fucking pinnacle of what was achievable in skating in my mind growing up. And then I think my first or second nationals, I then got picked for Oceanias, and then the next year for Worlds, and just the whole world opened up,
Yeah, right.
So to have nationals in Bunbury would have been like a big deal.
Did you get to it? You didn't go?
To artistic national. Oh, no.
This was last year.
No, I did go.
Oh, yeah, you went for a look?
Yeah,
because I went and watched a bit of it, and yeah, it's pretty impressive. And it's the same thing as something that you just, like you just said, you're not aware of it until you actually get down there. You're like, wow, these people, and we've got world champions just cruising around the sports centre doing some pretty cool stuff. We have
like exceptionally good skaters from Bunbury and have done for a long time. Like we had this is talking about me, we had 3 Bunbury kids who were representing Australia on a world level. 3 kids from Bunbury in speed skating represented a world level. Like at the time, that was fucking crazy. And our coach, good dude and all, wasn't a world-class coach.
Yeah, but talent.
And I think also small towns do tend to breed like not just a talent but a tenacity. Like we've got like Risdon from Bunbury, world-class soccer player. I mean, you can probably name more people than me.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
That's what the whole sports awards, you look through, which we just had recently, obviously the Southwest Times Sports Star of the Year award. Look through the winners, and every single winner in every year has been an Australian representative in some way or another.
Yeah.
At Olympics, whether that might be Olympics world champions. Obviously, at the moment, Nina Kennedy won last year, gold medalist. She's from here. Robinson, the surfer, from down south, of course, but we'll claim him. Him for ours. Bunbury is our own. But they're all there. And Josh Risdon come back and spoke of that as well. But, AFL athletes, AFL stars, they're all there. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I bloody I think I did like year 8 and 9 with Josh Risdon. He lived down the road from me growing up. I remember like someone telling me, I think maybe he was telling me about his soccer. I'm like, fucking who cares, dude?
It's just soccer, mate.
And
I'm very close with the Risdon family. His older brother's a very good friend of mine. So, yeah, we go way back. I remember playing with him, and Josh would play with us. So he was 2-3 years younger. He was just the best player in our team by a long way. Yeah. His brother was very good too as well, but his brother was a bit silly sometimes.
Hell yeah, aren't we all? So, 3-horse mayoral race. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, well, I took off on Thursday. I was away on Thursday. I've been away for a few days, mate, as you're aware. And when I left, there was only one in the race, and I was pretty sure that a couple others would come in, and they came in nice and late, put their nominations in a couple of hours before it closed. So off to the polls we go, and the ballots will start. But yeah, we're off and running, mate. As I said, just got back into town, so a bit of campaigning will start soon. Bloody
oath. And I know there was probably, I had a look, I think I touched base with that. I had a look, there was like another 4 councillor put their names forward for council positions.
Yeah, so there was 13 for council. So I think there was something between all nominations. There was about 7 nominations came in on that Thursday, the last day of nominations.
What's the theory there?
Not sure. Obviously, people, if they're thinking about running or maybe weren't 100% sure. I know one of the young ladies who run for council or is running for council, Courtney, she came to the Tuesday council meeting, first council meeting she's ever been to, and she goes, I was just giving it a thought. And I said, got a couple of days to make a decision. We had a bit of a chat, and she's obviously thrown her hat in the ring. So and maybe that was it. People were just thinking, I've been thinking about it, been in out, and then just decided, might as well go with it. So, I'm pretty sure the other 2 mayoral candidates were always running. They've been advertising pretty heavy in the paper for the last 6 months or so, mate. So I was not surprised. I would have been surprised if they didn't run, put it that way.
Yeah.
Neither of them let me know, considering they're sitting councils. But so anyway, they're off and running. So we'll see how it all goes, and it'll be chaos for the next month. And I've been off social medias for a while, mate, but I got back on. There's a fair bit that goes out there at the moment, so that's all a bit of fun. But it'll play in for the next few weeks. Ballots will start going out next week, and it all happens very quickly because history tells you majority of people vote within the first week of receiving their ballot, which will be next week. So sort of come end of September or even before that, the race is pretty well done, and the voting actually doesn't go off until the 18th of October. But all postal votes. So traditionally, pretty low voter turnout, as we've spoken about previously on here.
Yeah, that's such a weird thing. You got 40,000 people and you have like 8,000 people vote.
Yeah, well, voting people in Bunbury, it's about 26 or 7,000 now, and it'll be you get about a 30% voter turnout, so it'll be somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 voters, I'd suggest. There's a little bit more for a mayoral one, but yeah, they've also changed it to preferential voting, which makes things very differently. Previously, it was first past the post, and this time it's
that's like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and if what then happens if you don't meet the quota, so it's quite simple with the mayoral vote. You need to get 50% of the vote. So if it's 40%, 30%, 30%, well, that wouldn't work that well because it'd have to be 40, 31, 29. The 29% votes person would drop out, and their next votes, whoever voted second on their thing, would go to the next ones until someone got to 51%.
Interesting. Yeah, right. So does that make it? How do you feel about that? What would you prefer?
Well, obviously the last election we did was first past the post. Look, preferential voting has got some haters and some lovers to it. It's trying to say that, if you had X amount of candidates, like the last election, for example, 4 years ago, there was 11 candidates. So, I got elected with whatever it was, 700 votes or whatever it may be. The argument is you got elected with 5% of the vote. It was more than anyone else.
Yeah.
But so the argument for preferential voting should be saying, well, those votes, take the lowest ones out, and eventually someone got up to 50%, 51%. The difficulty can be you can get people running on a ticket and basically saying, and the classic example had happened in Geraldton 2 years ago because they had a mayoral election 2 years ago. The incumbent, the current sitting mayor, pretty divisional factor. I'm sure Shay wouldn't mind me saying that. He's quite loud and open, but he's been very popular in Geraldton for a number of years, been re-elected a number of years.
Yep.
There was 4 candidates running. His deputy mayor ran against him. His ex-wife ran against him.
No way.
And a political opposition ran against him. So it was quite clear it was him and 3 other people who were very strongly opposed to him.
Yeah.
He won the popular vote quite convincingly. I think he won 40% of the vote.
Yep.
but all the other preferential voting vote to the deputy mayor, so the deputy mayor got elected, even though he polled less votes as a first choice.
Wow.
So that's where the argument for preferential can go, going, well, this guy got elected, yet he wasn't the first choice for the majority of people. Anyway, it is the case. It's optional preferential, which is another take on it. So you can vote 1, 2, 3, but you can just put 1, and that way, if your number 1 doesn't get in, no preference votes are awarded. Yep. So rather than, as that then starts, well, you don't need to get 51% of the vote now, you only got to get 50% of the vote. And that might mean that if everybody just voted one time, for example, we go back to the example, 40, 30, 29, if everyone only voted one time, well, the 40% person would be elected anyway. So
all right, then does that not play an advantage to the person who's in the top position?
An advantage as a...
So say the slip is up the top, it's, Jaysen, Gabby, Michelle. Mm-hmm. Would that not give the person at the top, because there's going to be a lot of people that do, I have fucking
votes,
1, 2, 3,
Hopefully not, because I'm third.
No, it doesn't make any difference.
No. That's what they call a donkey vote, right? Where someone who doesn't care, just ticks the first name.
Yeah.
It definitely might be a bit of it. I'm not sure how much it plays into it, because it's not compulsory voting. So I think when they do that at state and federal elections, when you've got to vote, 10 times, and there's such a big number, you're like, this is too hard. Yeah, just go 1. That's why they do the how to vote cards and try and convince people to get their preferences in there. Yep. But in local elections, the 30% of people voting, you think they don't need to do it. So you think the only reason they're going to vote if they care and they're interested, they should read it. It may well impact. And if you look back at history, whether it's in mayor or council, the percentage of whether the person won, whether they're in position 1 or 8, I don't think it would matter that much. Whether it might have a small impact, but it's probably more when you get to something like a council where there's 14 names, and all of a sudden, same thing, you go get all the way to the back, you might read one blurb and say, that's really good, and give them a vote, and then get to the very end and go, that person's pretty good too. But that people will decide that as they go through, and that's why there's other different campaigning material that people will try and do to convince them to vote for them.
I do think the fact that, because it's not essential, and if you want to vote, you're going to go to the effort of filling out the thing and posting it, or you're going to go to the place and fill out the thing, you're going to I want this dude to win, or I want this dudette to win.
Dudette, it's much better phrase there, mate. Whatever it may be. And look, at the end of the day, that'll be determined and they'll work through it. But encouraging one way or another, mate, your listeners to vote. It'd be great if we had a situation where, voting numbers did go up, because it is important. We're seeing a lot at the moment. There's a whole lot of talk going on social medias about doing this and doing that. Well, I really hope all those people who are making comments and within every right to are also getting out there and voting, so their vote is heard.
I actually saw fuck it, we'll do it. I saw a thing the other day of someone, I think you know who this person is, going off like they usually do about how shit a job you're doing.
Yeah, I get that bit.
Someone comments underneath like, so you're the person who's running for mayor. Nah, I wouldn't want to fucking... Dude, who are you? Shut the fuck up. You don't get to say anything. If you don't think you could possibly do the job, then you're not allowed to comment on someone on how they could do it better.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where, I've got no problems with people being critical of myself. You put your name up in the public spotlight, you're going to get some criticism. Got no problem with that. When it gets personal, when there's clearly the one person we're talking about, when it gets personal or just relentless, you get a bit over it. Especially if you're going to go, mate, if you're going to be continuing that, well, come and have a run against me if you can do a better job. That's why I'd never be critical of other candidates, and both with council, and I know, obviously there's 13 council on there now. They're putting their hand up, they're having a crack. If you don't agree with their positions, just don't vote for them.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck into it, and don't get personal, and that's when it gets very disappointing.
Dude, personal is nuts, especially I can't believe people have the gall to personally attack someone on a social public platform and think that that's okay. At a certain point, you're going to have clapback from other people that are just in the public saying, hey, who are you? And also dude, I go to pretty extensive lengths to protect my privacy, my address. I'm someone who's very public, but I still I don't post anything out the front of my house. As much as I've got public number plate, personalized number plates. I really fucking work to make sure that if someone was trying to find me, it's not an easy task for them. Then you have people who attack in our close community, which is 100,000 people that attack you. And attack whoever, whether it's fucking councils or whatever. Brother, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, I drove straight past your house today, mate. Been here before and just drove straight past. So you're doing a good job, mate.
Yeah, good.
If you changed it up.
The invisibility.
But yeah, no, I agree, mate. I said if you're not prepared to put your hand up and that's probably why you're not getting. I speak to a few people and we've spoken about running as well, and I know it's not your reason, but I've spoken to other people about it, and they're going, "I'm not running. I'm going to deal with that bullshit," because they don't want to just have to deal with criticism that way. Again, criticism is fine, and I'll happily take criticisms at any stage, and if it's if it's about a particular thing. But I'll also invite, have a chat to me. Don't just go and have a rant online. Give us a go. And again, the particular person we're referring to here, mate, he was had to have 2 meetings with me. He's never rocked up for him. So if he's got any issues he wants to talk about directly about what we're doing, we'll come and chat, mate, and we'll get it sorted. But I won't. I will say this openly now. I would not meet with the person now because some of the things I'm dealing with now is quite threatening, and I'm not dealing with that. So we shouldn't have to. But when it just becomes that relentless side of things. So the key message, criticism is fine, and you can be critical, but it's more be critical of a position or their views. Don't be critical of the person. Yeah. And certainly these people, or anyone, and this isn't just Bunbury. This is across across the entire state or any position. If someone's putting their hand up. Don't be critical of them. There's a particular guy, actually, you might be interested to have a chat too. There's a particular guy running in Bustleton, and I would say, his views are pretty extreme. Now, I'm not going to go out there and say they're all wrong. I'll get stuck into a personal point of view. Just don't vote for them if you don't agree with them. That's quite simple. Like, you don't need to absolutely bash someone because they share a different viewpoint to you. You just away you go, mate. You just don't vote for them and they don't get elected and go that. If they do get elected, you're going to go, well, that more people than not share their views. So, that's fine.
I think also on a personal level, speaking as a constituent, you have to understand that you are not your ideas and your beliefs. Like, you are a person who has ideas and beliefs that can and probably will change over time. As you get older, you tend to get more conservative. And typically as you get older, you tend to understand the things, even if you still don't agree with them, that people have said in the past that you were like, how the fuck can they possibly think like that?
Yeah, well, and even especially with council, like what I've learned over so long as well, and like I'll be running a bit of a campaign, obviously, to get re-elected. Clearly, that's what I want to do. Also, very mindful of what we can control. That there's things in here and some of those things have been very critical about what I've done or haven't done. So I actually have got no control over that outcome. So to get stuck into me about what hasn't been occurred, where also here's all the ways I've advocated or whatever it might be, and here's what I would continue to want to do going forward. Yeah. And it is, in our council role, mayor or councillor, is one vote, and it's going to be one vote out of 9 come post-October. So if you've got a particular viewpoint, you also need to work with the other 9 elected members to get that viewpoint across and what then the best solution for that is. Yep. If that's advocating for a certain position, that's a priority, that's a whatever it may be, well, you need to work pretty closely with your elected member body to be able to get that through. Yeah,
100%. So what do you think were, like, moving forward? Obviously now you've got experience as a councillor, you've got experience as a mayor. There's going to be a shake-up with the council body. Are you losing a seat in council?
Losing 2, yeah.
So losing 2, okay. So now we're talking about having less people making a decision, which has its pros and cons. What would you like to see moving forward, taking you getting into the mayoral position again, as that's going to happen? What would you like to see as far as the council body's concerned?
Look, I'm very happy to say I've worked well with the previous council over the last 4 years. I think we've achieved a lot, and those things, the things that I'll be talking about that I'm proud of what we achieved, would not have been able to achieve with the collaboration that we've been able to do that, and of course the CEO and the executive staff. So this will be the same thing going forward, and regardless, they'll already be setting that up. Is that post-election? It's about bringing that new body together and saying, as a group, what are our key priorities? We understand that, person A really cares about environment, person B is really about driving economic change and whatever it might be, and that's fine. What as a group are we going to prioritise on, and how do we? Because at the end of the day, we've got I was about to say infinite resources. That'd be nice. we've got our set resources, and we need to instruct our CEO about where we want to get that time spent. What do we want our staff to focus on? And if there is a different particular place we want to go, obviously council's going to set that strategic direction. If we want to do the CBD revitalisation, how are we going to commit the CEO to saying, advocate on our behalf, meet with state government, meet with investors, and obviously commit funds towards it as well from the city's point of view? Or is that going, let's put that on the holder, we want to work towards beautifying our parks around the suburbs or whatever it may be, but what are these key themes we want to do on? And then how are we going to deliver them? And that's, there's been a bit of a talk recently about going, the Minister for Local Government's talking about trying to go back to, wanting to set up a 4-year election only. So right now we have a 2-year spill every 2 years, usually,
yeah.
I think. And her view is, well, it should be 4 years, so you've got time.
Yeah, to fucking do things.
We'll get in and going, well, here's our vision, and it's going to take a little while to get there.
Yeah.
So set that up. But I think if you get the fundamentals right, and the arguments for keeping 2 is you always keep a bit of that continuity, which I agree is important. But then I also probably agree is that if you do every 4 years, you're always going to have X amount of councillors rerunning. The numbers will tell you a number of those will get back on. So some of that continuity will stay anyway.
Yep.
But trying to set a vision and say, well, this is where we are currently, and this is where we want to be. Behind the scenes, some of the works have already started with the bicentennial square concept. So that's been running through the community consultation along with the community plan, which has previously been our community scorecard, where it goes to the community, says, right, what are we doing? What do you like what we're doing? What don't you like what we're doing?
Yep.
And what should we be spending more time and energy in? So that's going out at the moment. So in the new council, agenda, that'll come back as a report saying, we've been out, and they're doing pop-ups at the markets. They've been out in at the shopping centres and whatnot, gathering all this information. So it's going, well, as a council group, our community are telling us that this is the biggest issue.
Yep.
And when this work was done, so it used to be called the market scorecard, so it would still be part of that, but it would just be slightly rebranded. The market scorecard talked about the things we were doing well, but obviously most importantly is what do the community want us to do better? Right. Now, every single local government I've seen have done that in the last 5 years. Housing's been the number one issue.
Yep.
We know that. It's not directly a local government issue. We can't, some local governments can. I know that Karratha currently have bought land and building their own housing, which is it's great when they've got they've got zero debt. The city of Bunbury, we don't have that capital money to be able to do that. But what we can do, and some of the works we have done, we've opened up Chilbrook, and we're organising meetings with departments to make that a reality. There's 800 lots out there ready to go. The developer's ready to go.
Yep.
We've changed some of the planning restrictions along Ocean Drive to get residential developments along there, which, as many people know, it's been vacant forever. So, and it's also then working. We've sort of got rid of some of the red tape in some of our internal planning documents, which talk about what you can do on your own lot in terms of getting granny flats and whatnot. So there are some things happening in that, but it's about then going, how do we make sure these continues to be a priority? Again, so the top three are always on, and another one that's very common is always around public safety. Again, policing matter, but what can the city do to support that? If that continues to be a key criteria, what is it really people are talking about? Is it safe footpaths, more lighting, all those kind of projects as well? And the third one we have, which is probably different to other local governments, is CBD activation.
Yep.
Our community, through the Market Scorecard, is telling us that we wanted more CBD activation, which you talk to most blokes walking around the street and whatever it may be, they're the same. You need, how do we live up the CBD?
Thursday night, Friday night kind of slaps at the moment. Mm-hmm. There's people in town. There's people coming in and out of restaurants. There's cars. There's fuck all car parks.
Yep.
One of my personal favourite things to do at the moment is doing wheelies down the main street on a Thursday night, because
18 again, mate.
There's actually cars to weave in and out of, all that illegal shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think hang on, I just need to check one thing.
Haven't been recording the whole time, mate.
It's perfect. That's good. The whole time I'm like, don't tell me my lighting's fucked. Yeah, I think the CBD activation thing, it's like, I can speak to 10 different people and get 10 different ideas as to what the core thing is there, but it's not. It's like, not 100, it's probably 20 things working symbiotically to all come together at the same time, and it takes 5 years to get there. I think the fact that it's still cold nights and you go down on those Thursday and Friday nights and people are out and about and they're doing things, which I was going to bring this up with Glenn. I had Fitzy on the podcast on Monday. People spend more money on fast meals now instead of doing their shopping on the weekends and making meals at home than what they did 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, there was better nightlife, right? Nightlife as far as like restaurant dining and all the rest. That contradicts itself, right? Because it says that people are out and about buying more food, but then again, it's like, are they only going to HJ's, McDonald's and KFC?
Well, you see a lot of those around, I guess, don't you? So it's, and I can't answer that. First time I heard that stat, I guess, Jake. But yeah, it'd be probably worth diving into that and trying to understand those numbers. Are they doing that, or is there also more options? You think about you think about in Bunbury when all everyone talks about was 20 years ago was either Superflies, the Superflies on Albert Road, and Paddy's Burgers, was it? Or is it something burgers in town? Anyway, I'm sure there'll be people telling me off for not knowing it.
Yeah, screaming.
Yeah, there'll be that. That 20 years ago, I clearly wasn't going out. But was there only 3 or 4 options to go to?
And now there's
that's why because the activity was around a few areas where now You can go one end of Marsden Hill through to the Prince at the other end down there.
Dude, and Uber Eats. I didn't even think of that.
Uber Eats, and it's still the same. It's probably the exact same conversation with our retail market as well, is that you've got these satellite areas.
Yep.
With Eaton Fair, with Dahlia Bear, and they do pull people away from the CBD. So, yeah, more spend going on, but it's more diluted across more areas.
When you close your eyes and imagine the perfect Bunbury, Victoria Street and that CBD activation, what sort of things in general do you see?
High-rise accommodation, and not just accommodation, like residential. Like we need to get, because you talk about trying to get a thriving place, again, it's about ease. So if you're talking people prepared to go spend their money in town, but if they're living outside of town now, they will just get Uber Eats or just go across the Homemaker Centre and get chicken treat, wherever it may be. Or if you live there, you're going to go, it's a 10-minute walk downstairs. There's more people within the heart. So it becomes a bit like, my view is it just becomes more people around town. So it automatically helps with that regard. We've got to get that more pedestrian movement. It does lead. It's a very fine line, because the more we try and say, let's try and make this pedestrian friendly, you're obviously looking at car parking and going, right, you've got to park a kilometre away and walk in. And the mentality is going, well, if I'm going there, I'm going to park out the front. So we get all the time, there's no parking within the CBD, but then the same people are telling us that the CBD is dead. Yeah.
You got to have one or the other.
Yeah, but we obviously the city's working through around that, and obviously with the hotel group as that progresses further. And when that progresses, we'll obviously be looking at what we're doing to take those car bays back on, and where else we can build them. So, but having that people around there, but then probably more events as well. How do we get, it's difficult now, you just mentioned that, it's the middle of winter, it's always going to be a bit quieter, but during summer, that entire event space right now at Bicentennial Square, it's pumping. I don't know how hopefully that sort of follows on to people going into town, but can we start doing some of that down Victoria Street? And that's talked about as well, as blocking off Victoria Street and having that as a walking mall kind of thing, and live music, all those good things. We did it last year. We did it 2-3 times over summer. We just shut off Victoria Street between Whitnum and Simmer Street.
One of them was for Bummers and Beats.
Bummers and Beats did their own. That was a separate. This is a city just an evening event where we just blocked off the two.
Yep.
The city organised some music to play and it was just more trying to encourage the vendors to get into it.
Yep.
And it was quite well received. And just little things like that, where exactly what you're saying, when someone comes into town, they have a good experience and they go, oh, this is good. And it's vibrant. And even if they're driving past and they see people win or doing something, they're probably going to stop. And then they go, actually, no, this isn't bad, or this isn't shit, whatever it may be, that they're going to enjoy themselves. So it's trying to create that vibe where people will then give them a reason when they do come in is to walk away and say, I had a really good time there and CBD's going good.
Dude, for sure. When you see people having fun, that's when you have those spontaneous nights out for dinner, home girl, and maybe even you got mates in the car, whatever, you're like, fuck, should we, even if it's just stop for a drink, or should we, we'll have dinner out, fuck it, why not? That's always encouraged when the vibe around you is that, I think also, I imagine, the city is perfect for, a bike race. If you shut down even just the main street and just did, an end-to-end safety pin loop, that would be crazy.
I've seen some old photos around. They used to do it up at Esplanade on the beach, all through town. So, pretty. And again, that's what I'm talking about. Is what kind of we've been very lucky with the major events with the footy and Matildas. We've got the swimming carnival coming in now. It was only just announced yesterday. Beautiful. So Australian national swimming through Kambana Bay there for 4 days. They're talking thousands of competitors, so massive. So, they're all sporting events, which biking would be.
That's the nationals for swimming.
It's an open water swim event. So we've always had a satellite of it, a 1 day event.
Yeah.
Where they're bringing the national title here, where because most of these open water swim events, they have obviously their shorter swim, their long distance swims might be a 10K.
Wow.
Good luck to those. But we've got Kyle Lee, who's a national champion here in Bunbury. We talk about great sports people. You should get in and have a chat to it, mate. So they're going to bring that here. They'll run it 3 days. They do it Kambana, and away they go. So it was meant to be in Bustleton, but they come to us instead, mate.
Nabbed.
Nabbed. Well, Bustleton didn't want it.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently
we got too much cool shit going on.
Well, in a way, and Phil, get on with Phil really well. Shout out to Phil if he's listening. But I understand their councils have been in a position where they don't want to support events during public holidays anymore because because they got too much going on now.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're happy with that because we'll take them. So they're going to be down here in January, that same weekend as all the activities happening with Australia Day and whatnot. So it'll be heaving. And yeah, we were looking forward to it. But bringing those bigger events in, because same with your bike racing, if you're talking about those, like my view has always been that these sporting events, and especially like the AFL Swim 1 racing, is going to actually attract viewers. But the biggest ones are the actual playing ones, whether it's a junior carnival or a senior carnival. They rock up and they're playing, so you got a guaranteed audience of a few hundred, and normally they're bringing their wives and
family and all that stuff.
So, and because we've got we're very lucky. Bustle didn't want this one either. Actually, that's coming up next month. We've got the over 65 national cricket carnivals happening in Bunbury. So again, you're talking 400 competitors just rolling into town, and they're the kind of ones you want, because you get picked in the national team, but it's kind of one of those things you get picked because you pay to go. So you got a few dollars. So we had the over 70s a few years ago, and it might even be over 60s, over 65s, but they're coming back. So So getting those people and having more of those events in town, it brings their direct economic activity for them, but the amount of people you speak who come into that and they come here and they're here for the first time and they go, geez, this is pretty cool. Might come back here.
Absolutely.
So you hopefully get that repeat stuff. We experienced that bit with the footy, talking to a couple of the North Melbourne members and people who came over from interstate, wandering around. They're going, next year we'll stay down here for a few days before we go back to Perth. So
yeah, bloody oath.
You hope all those things build to that just a bit more vibrancy around the place.
Going back a conversation, I think there's an obvious business opportunity for the first person to develop a multi-storey car park in Bunbury 10 years before we need it.
Well, it would be a business opportunity if you had paid parking. So parking has to pay for it. Someone's got to pay for parking. Now, at the moment, the city covers it, which means it's picked up in your general rates because we offer free parking. But there are costs to maintain them. There's a cost to monitor them, and obviously parking. You can make money in parking because you're only going to go to any city in the world, and it's $10 for parking here and $20 for parking there. Like, they've made a business model out of that. Right now, if you put a multi-deck parking in the CBD, and this is the kind of conversation we're having, saying, would you make it paid parking? Because are people then going to pay for it if they can park 100 metres down the road for free?
Look, I don't know a lot of the answers. I think the thing would be now, obviously, as I said, it's 10 years early. You might go to the council, hey, happy to make it, the first 3 for free, and then everything, if they're full, you pay for it at the top, whatever, and make that a privatised thing. But it's like, dude, in 10 years' time, when there is that hotel and there's another sky high rise and all the rest, well, who needs parks?
We've got
now,
it. Wow, and that's where I think the model will be a council-led model, and whether that means we're doing it because it's not only obviously it's a cost, it's a ratepayer's cost in the interim, but it is almost that long-term investment to A, secure parking, but B, we've got the opportunity then, and whether that's through a private partnership to go, well, here's what we'll do. But part of it would also go, if you do have another business coming into town, let's say hopefully we get a big office complex and coming into town or whatever it may be, going, we need to have 40 bays, but we can't fit them on our site. No worries, we can sell you these 40. So you either take them on a 10-year lease, a 5-year lease, or buy them outright. Yeah. So that's where that business plan sort of builds up, and that's where the city's working towards going, well, here's what we're going to do. There'll be a cost with it because obviously building multi-deck car parks doesn't come cheap.
Yep.
But you're right, it's around that investment. And it's probably the city working out when's the right time to do that, how do we do that, what's our current demand, where's the best location, because there's a few different spots around where you could do it.
Yep.
But they're the different conversations that will continue.
Would you prefer the council to be in ownership of that rather than a privatised situation?
I just think that the council would need to be involved because at the moment it couldn't stack up in my view. When you're saying it, I mean, if someone wanted to come along and do it, yeah, absolutely, let's do it.
I just think like Wilson.
You're ready, mate. You're ready to go.
Oh, give me another 2 years, or something, like maybe. But no, I think Wilson coming along and doing something like that, in my mind, is sort of the worst thing that could happen, but the most plausible thing that would happen, because they're like, fuck, what's $10 million today for us?
Yeah. Well, and that's. I'm not sure in those conversations have occurred, because right now it'd be, you're going to build that, but if you can charge for it, you're probably not going to get a return because the numbers tell us right now there are bays around. Yep. They're just not being used. There's always bays at Cobblestone. There's no bays on street front because they're free. Yep. But sort of the outer ones and it is, again, you got to walk a little bit further. They've got free parking and there's bays available, and our numbers tell us, because there's all the sensors in them, that at any one time we got logged into it now, there'd be 2/3 full and 1/3 of our all public car parking would be available. But people will tell you that there's not many bays, there's no bays available because they're not getting the parking in front of their street.
Dude, people don't have shit to talk about. That's a problem.
Well, I think, and look, I'm happy to say I've been guilty of it as well. You do drive into town, I'll just go around the block again, and I'm sure I'll get a bay there next time you go around the block again. And again, where I go, there's a guaranteed bay 500 metres over there.
We would have been in the restaurant by now.
Yeah, but it is changing a mindset and something that we've always done. So I've tried to change that massively over the last few years. I just could just walk to work and then don't have an option anyway. So I try and do that almost every day. Didn't today because I was coming out to see you. Yeah. But most days you do it because then you're like, well, we're here now and it takes me 10 minutes to get there anyway. But it's one less thing I have to worry about. But there's always going to be that changing mindset, and that will happen over as we work through those more developments, and you're going to have to make those decisions to go there. And that's where it does become, if you want to have the premium parking, you pay for it. Yeah. And that's how the model works. That's how it works in Perth. Yeah, if you don't want to pay for parking, sure, just park on the outskirts and get the train in for $1. Yeah. But people would rather go, I'm coming in, I want to pay top dollars because I want to be right in the middle.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those scenarios where there's 3 options and you can only have 2. It's like people want the CBD needs to be activated. It's like, well, you need to put more shit in there, which is going to take parks away, but it's going to increase, spend. We want, safer environments. It's like, well, with population comes the culture, both positive and negative, that comes with higher populations, and it's going to be a little bit more unsafe because when you have 1,000 instead of 100, now you've got one dickhead in every 10 has now expanded to 100 people in 1,000.
Yep.
So yeah, it's like you really, do you want a small town or do you want a big city? Do you want a, option when you go to spend money? Do you want more restaurants to choose out of? Do you want more price options to spend? Whether you know
exactly right. Yeah, everything comes with the opposite sides. There's pros and cons just about every discussion and every point that people want. But I think, well, even housing, everyone's desperately saying we need housing. We put more houses in the room. And it's interesting, even probably the classic example is that with people crying out for housing and affordable housing. We've had a number of different opportunities where we've had the tiny houses project, which is over at currently over at the Salvation Army site, but that was proposed at a different location. And we had the pitchforks out, mate. The people were coming in, you can't put this near our house, this is not fair, this is going to devalue our property. So, there's that side of things too. People were very happy to have, affordable housing and some social housing, but if it goes near you, like if we come to you tomorrow and said, hey, we're going to put in a flat of social housing next door, you're probably not going to be very happy, are you? But you want to see it happen.
Yeah.
I live just near the Accord West side on Forest Ave, which was approved a few years ago by council. And my neighbours, coming to me going, we can't put this in. Oh, it's not. It's going to, this and that. And I was like, why? Going, it's got negative connotations. And I said, have you ever had an issue with it? Like this is a organised facility, a very well structured and well organised facility, which looks after that particular site, looks after youths that are coming into a bit of difficult situations. And I was like, I've got a lot more problems with the highway across the other side of the road, where you get people on Saturday nights coming out full of piss and carrying on, than you do there. So I said, no, but it's just that it is the connotation because people are worried about that. Yeah, let's make sure we get extra housing and do this and do that. But don't put it there. Don't put it across from me. Put it somewhere else. So, and I'm the same. You defend your own position, but it comes with that pros and cons.
Yeah, I think also to delve into that just a bit, the emotional attachment you have to what every single dollar that you generate and invest is worth as inflation goes up. So you're like, right, I'm working harder for the same amount or less money, which is paying off less of my house over a longer term, and now all of a sudden my house is going to be worth less because the thing that we want, which is sort of a bad thing in that sense of the word, is going to be next door to me.
Yep.
So it's like now all of a sudden go all the way back to the start. What am I working harder for?
Yeah.
My shit to go downhill? Well, pay me more. Or fucking someone, like if you're going to do that, pay off more. But that's not how the world works.
No. But it's fun. We'll keep working through it, and that's why we want to, whatever, and that's things like this Bicentennial Square and community plan. Like I know there's been a bunch of feedback on that now in different ways, and some negative and some positive. A lot positive, I might add. But it's about saying, well, we're putting this out there for comment. Like if community telling us that don't want it, we'll focus our attention everywhere. But Bicentennial Square is probably a good one. It's got 8 sort of key themes that we think is pretty important, or the work's been done to say that these are the key themes that will make this place pretty active. Yep. You tell us, what do you guys think? Now, if 90% of people tell us that they don't like theme 1, which might be looking at the road connections or something, we'll relook at that and revisit it. But if it's like 3 people who just say, I don't like that design, and make as much noise about it, at some stage we're going to go, look, we appreciate it. We see your views. We've modified some things slightly, but we're going to continue with this because everyone else is happy with it. And at the end of the day, we've got to make decisions on behalf of the 30,000 people that we're representing, not 3 or 4 who are really upset with it, which is also why we encourage people, A, vote, and B, give that feedback, because how can we – I wouldn't suggest there's too many decisions we've made where we've had overwhelming people against it.
Yeah.
And that there's been, and people will probably sit and argue there because we said, well, we rocked up to the chamber and there was 50 of us and you guys still voted for it, and going, you also are still 50 people and there's 28,000 people. And
as a percentage, it's still fuck all.
And the things that you were passionate about may add different information that you guys thought was important, which elected members didn't.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is that the elected, quite often they'll say that and saying, oh, I spoke to this elected member and told them that, and saying, well, we're 11 elected members there to represent 25,000 people. So although we've been speaking with these two people and that's important, I've still got to consider what's important to the other 30,000 people out there that we're representing as well. So that's what we've got to work through. And
I think the overall message here is, and I really push this for the recent federal election, is like, I'm like sort of transparent about what who I think, like, who I'll be voting for and who I think will be the best person for the position, whether it's mayor or councillor. But the big thing is just like educating people on, like, you are part of a system where your vote does count, and as much as you don't give a fuck, you actually do, and you can do something now in the next 3 weeks that makes a difference. So just vote. Just do a little, even if you just read the bios the councillors and the mayors put up for themselves, and just go, I like the way that sounds, or I like the way this sounds, or ask your neighbour, hey, ask your mate, ask your boss, like, well, what do you think? It's rude to ask exactly who you're voting for, but it's not rude to get a fucking vibe check.
No.
You know?
No. And then if you're not going to, and you don't have to, if you're not going to, just don't whinge later on.
Yeah, shut up. It's not your problem anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
That's fine. If you're complacent about it, then that's fine too, no problems. But don't ring me up and complain about stuff and later on. Well, might not be ringing me, don't ring Michelle or Gabby in October 19th and tell them they're wrong. Yeah.
Well, talking about transparency, one person I do think that people should vote for is Ben Andrew, purely because the dude reads everything. He's at every bloody council meeting, and try and find him not at an event. That dude is at every event.
Yeah, I just be very careful because I don't want to be obviously endorsing any council candidates. I'm clearly not running for council, but you know. Ben's a very good guy, and I get on with Ben very well, and he's been a great councillor. But we've got some very good candidates on there. I'll stick with that, Jake. You've given the plug there.
Oh,
but
look,
I'm very careful about.
I'm not looking for you to back up anything that I say. Just as far as like, to begin with, the position is almost impossible both for the mayor and the councillor, because you're trying to best represent all of your constituents in a way where you keep the majority happy and hopefully everyone happy, right? I think that Ben does a good job of finding the average. I think he does a good job of his critical thinking ability. And as far as like me as a voter goes, and maybe one day putting my name in the hat to be a councillor, I would hope to be as like not compliant, but like, you know, as suited to the role of trying to be someone who's trying to keep everyone bloody happy at the same time. And I think I say this in contrast to the fact that some people are putting their name in the ring for both positions that perhaps don't have the same attendance, don't have the same commitment to being at events and all the rest. And I just think as far as like that position goes, I want you on the street. I want you on the street. I want you at the events. I want you participating. I want you understanding. I want people to be able to see your face if they do have a comment, positive or negative. They've got someone to talk to. And you're the same. You're at everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Kate doesn't like that about me, mate. Never home. But I'll be interested to see this week. She's got the girls' weekend away this weekend, so I've got about 4 events coming up. I got Cooper. It's always good taking Cooper though, because when I've had enough, I got to go, mate. Cooper's running him up.
Yeah, sorry,
give him a little pinch and let him run off, mate. But look, I'm investing as well, not just for obviously, I'm a social person anyway, but I'm the same. I agree with what you're saying. If the mayor or a councillor, it doesn't. Again, I think I should be at everything that I can be, because I need to be there, and it's good to understand what people are up to. As an elected member, you should be attending, especially those things that interest you, and maybe sometimes getting out your comfort box a little bit, because, again, similar to what I said before, is that we're there to represent our community quite often, and I know I've tried to move away from as well, is that I'm thinking I'm representing these people because I know there's view, but I say, well, what is the actual other view? And some of the groups were talking about artistic skating previously. Do you really think I would have ever had any idea about artistic skating 4 years ago? But I went along to that event, got to know some people who had been in Bunbury for lifetimes, and you talk to them about certain things, and I was able to support them through some bits and pieces they were going to do. And the same with some of the we're doing a segment for a little while about community champion, right? So I was just trying to do it, just going, let's highlight, let's get away from this negativity about things. Let's highlight some people doing some cool stuff around the town. And I knew a few of them already when they got nominations came in. And I had this Mary Gloom, who's been involved in the Bunbury Musical Comedy Club now forever. So I went down there, did a photo with her, and anyway, she said, we've got this event coming up. Do you want to come? So I went along, went to their AGM. I'm a patron of the club. It's this maybe 50 odd members they got in this club, but just a group of people that I'm not going to lie, I would never have anything to do with outside of council or my normal life, because it's a different
subculture.
Yeah, different subculture, different views, which is important, because I go down there and I go down to most of their events and we have a chat, and you're hearing about things that you're like, oh, that's interesting. I've never really thought about that concept in that way. And it helps you shape your decisions later on. I'm pretty sure I said to you last time when I was on here about my role as mayor, what I think and how I consider things now as opposed to 4 years is totally different. And my views have changed. And I'm happy to look back on some of the things and go, if I had that decision again, I probably would have thought about it a different way, because you've met more people and you're still going, well, that doesn't make sense to do it this way. So I'm accounting brain, mate. This doesn't make sense. Economically, we should be doing this. Whereas time goes on, you're like, yeah, hang on, you've got to consider this and you've got to consider these kind of things as well. And that's just being out, and that's purely because you've been I've been active and within the community, and there's obviously some elected members who've got that experience as well, and there's some members who are running or obviously put their hand up to do that, who have some wide experience as well. And that's the key. No matter what happens this election, Bunbury, Darden, anywhere in the state, you hope you get councils that got a nice widespread of experience across all walks of life, because it helps you. It does help you make good decisions.
You know what I think it is? What resonates so truly with me is, like, I don't feel like there's a front, because obviously while there's not, I feel like you answer more questions than you get to ask as a councillor, but I don't think it's crazy to say that some people past and present have tried to get the position and got the position for particular, reasons. Like, they've got an agenda being in that position. I met Ben. I'm using Ben as the example now. I'm not continuing to, I'm continuing to endorse it, but as the example, I met Ben because he came to my social skating club. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just like, there's a new thing. I'll come down. I can't skate. I'm fucking on my scooter, on my bike. And it's like, he just came and introduced himself. Like, that's a sort of dude who just he's like, there's something new going on. It's in my city. I'll go do it. That's a dude that you want on council. I mean, you don't want someone who goes like, I've got a bit of spare time and it brings in a bit of extra income. Like, I'll chuck my name in the ring and get my mates to vote for me. Who the fuck are you? So I feel like that authentic, like, I love this city. I want this city to keep on this progression, and I want to have a say because I feel like I'm getting good input from people who are also having a say. I just, like, it rings true to me, While we're on this topic, I think you mentioned her just before. She's currently studying, the girl who put her name in the ring. Courtney. So I'm guessing she's in her 20s, hasn't had much to do with council before this. Yeah, I think, as I said, come to the council meeting. We spoke for probably 10 minutes. That's the only thing I know about. I got no idea her background or her views. I've just made a note of something you were just talking about there about people on council or getting on council. But yeah, so she's put her hand in. As I said, she wasn't sure. I know who she works for, and her boss is a very good man. So I said maybe we should speak to him first and get some guidance. But she's thrown her hat in the ring. She'll learn a lot. And I think my actual advice to her is that, if you put your hat in the ring, you'll probably find out a fair bit along the period. But there's someone who at some stage, obviously, she's taken an active viewing. You've done the same. You've sort of gone, what's going on here? Look, you haven't made the decision yet, but she's decided to jump into the deep end and yeah. What do you think would be some of the pros and cons jumping into the deep end at such an age?
Well, I did it. And the cons, I can probably speak on experience. The cons was that I was very naive and a newbie. Like, I clearly had an accounting background, but I was similar. I reckon I went to maybe one or two meetings, and then one of them was on behalf of an issue that we had, where I just said, it can't be that hard. Just do it. And council was a very different time than I feel, because that was now 12 years ago. I don't think there was as much scrutiny, or it probably wasn't as much social media, which didn't help with it. There was very little. There might have only been maybe 8 people running at that stage, still for 6 spots, maybe 10, I can't remember. But yeah, so I got elected, and relatively naive. So certainly I took a while to get into it. I'm not going to lie about that at all. Talking about planning, I had no idea about planning schemes and R codes and what you can do here. It was not my expertise in any way. But you learn quickly, and you spend some time, and there's a lot more training and resources available now than there was back then.
Yep.
I think the pro in some ways, it does bring you as a complete fresh look. You're not caught up in any of the previous politics or positions. Yeah. So there's definitely pros and cons about it. So and that was from, but I would say it took me And even during meeting procedures and whatnot, I'd been involved in committees and a cricket committee at that stage, and I think I was president of the club at that stage. So I understood how to run a meeting, but all of a sudden you start talking about governments and this is how you do this and a lot more structured. You're like, well, I'm definitely out of my league here. I was lucky. Obviously Gary was the former mayor, and he certainly gave me that guidance as well. Yep. Yeah, it's a big stepping stone for people that want to in. But we were talking about about what people are running for and what may be, and people are going to get on. I'm going to deliver this, I'm going to deliver that, and what may happen. And I'm sure that there's still a bit of that, and that's fine to say that. But also realising what you can do. And I touched on a little while ago around what you're open about. Someone hit me up the other day and saying, "Well, what are your policies?" So, well, this isn't federal government or state government, or a lot happens to the American government now, saying you don't have policies. Like I'm not going to go and say my policy is this and that. I said, I'm happy to give you my views and how I'd like to sort of achieve or push some of those views, but we don't have policies to go, right, if I get elected, my policy is going to be to, build 500 houses in the next year. Well, you can't do that.
Yeah. I'm going to bring smoking back into buildings.
Yeah, I'm going to bring back smoking into buildings. Just been in Bali, mate. That works pretty well over there.
There's a lot of that going on there.
A few different rules there, mate. I'll be very interested to see how their councils run over there. That'll be a bit of fun. But, so it's there is a bit of that too, and that's probably that knowledge as well. People out there saying, oh, well, this I'm going to vote for this councillor because they said that they get elected, we're going to make Bunbury the capital of WA. Like, well, it's not. You're not going to achieve. And there was a candidate 4 years ago who said that if he was elected, he would ensure there's a rate freeze for 4 years. So no rate freezes in 4 years, and also amalgamate a couple of our neighbouring shires. So things that you can't actually do. It's not your role to do that.
When I get voted as mayor, I'm going to be God.
We'll just get us in. So, but that's obviously anyone can run their position, but I just those people who are paying attention, you hope you realise what local government can and can't control.
Yeah. Well, touching on amalgamation, what was your thoughts after my chat with Tyrrell on the pod?
I think I made some notes. I was watching it about 10 o'clock at night, mate. So it was a little while ago.
Here we go.
It was good watching, mate. And I'm
fucking kicking myself. I thought I had an audio issue at the start, so I gave him a secondary mic just to record on as well.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, it was just my mic wasn't turned on the mixer here, so the audio wasn't as good as it could be. But we still got you can still hear what was going on. So yeah, tell me, what was your...
You got me notes, man. I do my research for these things. No, and it was good, and I enjoyed listening to Tyrrell because I'd obviously known Tyrrell and I get on with Tyrrell very well, but I didn't know some of his background as well. So it was great to listen into. And Hombre, what'd you call Mick Bennett?
Homeboy.
Yeah. Not sure anyone's referred to Mick Bennett as homeboy before as well, but Mick is his predecessor. Was
He's
very
homeboy now.
Yeah, but a couple of the comments he was talking about. So one thing I certainly do agree on when he was talking about local governments being different and how do you compare the views of a Darden up to Borough Cup and whatnot. I don't disagree with that in the slightest. We're the difference here in Bunbury. We've just been talking about the CBD for half an hour.
Yep.
I'm sure if there's people listening who live in Usher or South Bunbury or Pelican Point are going, well, when are you going to spend some money out here? So it doesn't matter where you are and how big an area is. There's always going to be difference of opinions, and that's why again I'll reiterate and. I'm not sitting here and saying this is what should happen. My view is that I think it needs to occur at some stage, and I think we need to be part of the conversation because I still stand by. I think it will happen at some stage, whether that's splitting south and north or whatever it may be. I just strongly feel that it's happened elsewhere before. It's likely it will happen again, and for me it does make sense. But it's about going, well, let's talk about it then. What are the concerns? And the concerns about what startups view going to be. Where's that fit in? Where's Eaton fit in? And if you're going to do it, we'll just go back to have a ward system. So if we draw a map, and there's been a few suggestions afterwards going, well, wouldn't you just do south and north? Eaton and Darden up and Bunbury and Capel and going, well, would that work? And then all of a sudden you can have ward systems within that. So you two representing South Bunbury and you're one for that. So, I think that, I don't disagree with the views. The whole point we discussed it was going, well, it's been talked about. Well, let's talk about it. And then, of course, the ABC ran a story about it all and I'm got a bit of abuse from a few not our elected members, other elected members about what a horrible, why am I out there talking about it? It wasn't just me talking about it. Just timely that Netherlands Council went down the way it went.
Yep.
And that's I make it very clear, Netherlands Council has got nothing to do with amalgamation, neither does Port Hedland's Council or anything like that. But it became topical for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But dysfunction is going to happen with dysfunction. You can have one council, it's going to be dysfunction. You can have 5 councils, it could be 3 different. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. But I think that conversation started saying, well, what's the better method going forward? And But whatever you do, if you have dysfunction, you're going to have dysfunction.
I must admit, following the conversation, because I re-listened to our podcast, then went, into that with a bit of a like, all right, I don't know what I'm talking about, but the little bits I do know, these are the sort of the points. He matched everything fairly well. Like, as someone who's listened to both sides of the story in a long-form conversation, I'm not any better off. I'm not like, oh, obviously it's this way or that way. I think like a few of the things was like, well, tell me your reasons why you don't want it to happen. And if it were to happen, what are some of the things that you want to see? You know, and both of those, again, they weighed each other out. It's like, all right, well, if it did happen, it would require a lot of follow-up, like, oh, well, we need to address the needs of people individually based off their land size, based off what their day looks like, based off what the average person from that area looks like. But again, it's fucking the pros and cons.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about pros and cons of housing and pros and cons of
that's going to be the name of this.
Pros and cons. So every
cons.
Single thing has a way off around it, and most things you'll have a different. There's very hard to get unanimous decisions on certain things because there always are, and they're valid. And it's about going, okay, well, can you combat this con? So if there's a con but it's easily managed in a particular way, well, why wouldn't you look at going, if the pros then outweigh those cons and they can be managed in a certain way, would you look at doing it? And that's when it comes to. I know there was the reference to, I think some of the other count or shires or areas that have done it, and Geraldton was one, and that had some differing views, but the differing views, I think the study was on 99 people. I spoke earlier about when we have 50 people who rock up to council who are very vocal about something. Yeah, they're not are they representing 30,000 people, or are they representing 50 people?
Yeah, an echo chamber of 50 people. Yeah.
So and I'll definitely agree with the fact that before you did anything, you'd want to show how it worked, where the savings would be as well, and I'll make it very clear. It's not my intention, because people will getting stuck in, why would Bunbury want to take over and do this and that? No intention at all, Bunbury taking over. It's about going, what's the best? What does this whole area look like in 20 years' time? Is it something totally different? And what's the best way to get there? And it will take time. There's no doubt about that as well. If it ever did occur, but how we move to that position, why wouldn't we start having the conversation in some way now?
Yeah.
But on the same token, as I said, we're going down in numbers as well. Pros and cons again with going down to 9 numbers, but right now there's 40 numbers out there about what are all the views of all that of the neighbouring shires. So, I got into a little bit of strife around anyway. Not any strife, just to set on. There was different people there. And I spoke, and unfortunately APCC didn't really help us, because they ran the headline that Mayor calls for reduction of councils or whatever it may be, which was, in my view, not totally accurate. And then the entire article talked about comments made from Minister Beasley and John Carey and
dude, I know I'm the representative of the opposing team here, but traditional media sucks. They just it's not about the story. It's about what are the set of words that we can use here to make people open up to the second page. Yeah. That's what it's all based off, The people who are consuming my media, it's like, they give a fuck about you. They give a fuck about the conversation. They want to know because it's going to, the AFL. I like AFL. I'm going to listen to Jurak's podcast. Or I've been to Fitzy's 100 times. I'm going to listen to Glenn's podcast. I want to see Jaysen not voted in or voted in. I'm going to listen to the podcast. This is just like, I'm reading the paper and my phone's at, 3, you're catching the fucking, it's a throw net.
Well, and it's something I even, in their defence, can't believe I defend them. And I will admit that, that headline draws the attention. So if I use that example, the article that they ran after this podcast around amalgamation, whatever it was, and Mayor calls for reduction in councils, that was the headline. So if you read the actual article was a very good article, but there was maybe one sentence on a couple of comments I'd made, which even said, I think they should be looking into it. But that was the headline. So it totally dominated that. And then, of course, you post that line, no one clicks on the stories, especially when it's paid. No one's going to click on it.
Dude, I just realised I'm a dickhead here. I'm pretty sure the name, because I actually did a pod clip. The first ever pod clip that I did was from our podcast.
Yep.
And it was highlighting that amalgamation conversation, because I was like, surely there'll be something there.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure.
That was the title?
The title was very, what would you call it? It makes you want to watch. Too many councils, not enough cash. Time to talk amalgamation.
Yeah, but at least you're leading it to a longer form conversation. So where I was getting to with that, though, is that I think the article was a good article, and I had no problems with that. But if people see the headline, social media, so they just jump on. At least your people who are seeing that are probably listeners already. They're like, I'll get more of that. Where something on social media, you see a headline, you're scrolling past, you're like, that dickhead, just write whatever you want on there.
Yeah.
I had definitely one, but I'm sure a couple. Someone came up to me and just said, why would you even talk about that? And I was like, did you read the article? And they said, oh, well, what, you're calling for amalgamation again? We've heard it all before. And I was like, did you read the article?
Read the article.
I said, go read the article.
Yeah.
It's very little about me and more actually reflection back on Netherlands. And then they had some comments from former local government minister John Castrilli, obviously local mayor as well. I'm not sure if they were current comments or comments he'd made a long time ago, because clearly under his leadership or under his role in that ministry portfolio, he looked at them and worked through it.
Yep.
And there's, again, we're talking about it down here. This is happening, conversations are happening all over the state. There's been positions previously where you've got city shires looking to amalgamate. And I talk about where I think about some of our regional facilities needing support. It's the same thing where you've got in Perth where you might have two shiring cities. One of them's got the pool and the sports centre and the art gallery. Next door users all use them. It's the exact same scenario. These ratepayers are topping up those kind of people. So they're all having that, and obviously more so when you get into the shires out in the wheat belt, where it could even get more of a decision to either it even becomes the pros and cons become even more that you're going, well, we've got 4 local governments covering a vast area. Yeah. However, it's only 1,000 people. Maybe we should combine them. Same thing. Well, what about the identity of Muckenbuden as opposed to Beacon or something like that? How do we make sure their views and their constituents who you're getting elected for are getting the views? And you could argue whether or not all day about how that may look like. Yeah. But I will stand by it again to suggest that I think there will be a state government at some stage, whether it's this one or the next or in 5 terms' time, that they're going to go, right, we're determining this is happening. And as I referred to previously, it happened under the Jeff Kennett era in Victoria, happened in Queensland. It's happened here on smaller scales where it's always been voluntary in some way. And that may well be the state government things just go, we'll let it go. But will it happen where there's 3 or 4 that start doing it voluntarily and they're going, hey, this is working really well. We're now going to mandate that they're all doing it. Certainly won't be in the next 2 years, though. It's not part of the local government's minister's view just yet. She's dealing with enough, Minister Beasley, dealing with enough little dramas at the moment with Port Hedland and Netherlands and a few other bits and pieces. She was down last week.
Speaking of people in positions of power is a word, whatever it is, tell Don to come on the pod. I emailed him and said, come on the pod, and he said, nah, I'm too busy at the moment. Brother, who cares? Come on the pod,
Yeah, I'll let him know. I'll let him know. I know. Yeah, I think he gets sometimes burnt as well. But
yeah, for sure.
But I think he'll be happy just to have a chat. I'll have a word to him. I'll see if he's interested.
I'm not trying to fuck anyone on the pod. I'm not going for gotcha moments. You're in my house. I make you coffee. Like, I just want to talk, I'm very interested in just, seem to be able to get just about anyone on the podcast and ask them the most basic questions, and you find everyone in one way or another has an interesting story. Yep. So I'm quite happy to even avoid topics. And typically I do ask people before we start, is there anything you don't want to talk about? And even if it's your job, fucking cool, man. Where'd you grow up? What do you do in your spare time? You tend to find something interesting. What I did want to ask, all going well, you get re-elected. What are some projects that you'd be confident that you're able to see through or see the progression on if you are to get re-elected, that you would perhaps be a bit scared if you didn't get re-elected that they wouldn't get that same result?
It's a good question, Jake. I think what I've worked on, and we talked earlier about what policies you bring and what your positions and what that. I think one of my key criteria that I've been able to drive the last 4 years has been the relationships. It's been 4 years building a strong relationship with the council group, which I think fundamentally is pretty important. And I know there's a number of current sitting councillors and candidates who are very keen to see me elected as well. So I know I have that support going forward. But I've built relationships with state government, with some investor groups, obviously with our community too. With some things we talked about, we ran those community forums, we ran our community champion. So I feel I've built a fair bit of trust there with some of those relationships, and some of the things are continuing. North Melbourne is another example where that even though we're not directly involved because it's the state government funding it, we've built a really strong relationship with them. So I'm a little bit worried that if I wasn't re-elected, then would some of those relationships have to be started again? Not saying they couldn't be rebuilt or they just continue on anyway. Is it the relationship I built, or is it me as a person or me as the mayor? I'm not actually totally sure, but I guess my concern would be, would some of those things go backwards? And what would that mean for potentially some of those opportunities that are currently in place and happening, and then the ones that might be in the wings going forward? Yep. Not saying at all, as I said, it's not saying that just they would stop, but I think that's something that works pretty hard on and would like to see that going forward, and especially the current state government. I mean, they've got another 3 years, obviously, in term. They come down for their community cabinet. First time they've ever been to Bunbury, to a regional cabinet setting twice. So we had all of them in town. They're all raving on about a few of the projects that we've sort of got underway, or at least working through, talking them through them. So I feel we made some really good headway with some of those things. Would that continue? I'm not sure. But
what are some of those projects? Like if you could say to the people, you can get excited about this happening in the next 4 years, should I keep my position? And I know you can't give everything 100% gold seal, but what are some of those projects that people can get excited about?
Yeah, sure. So the Bicentennial Square side of things is probably at the moment the main thing that we're sort of talking about. And when I talk that, it's around the CBD activation in full. So, the state government have committed funds to that already, and we briefed them on it. And the number of ministers who sort of looked at the overarching plan and said, this is really good, and this is something you really need to do. It was great. The deputy premier, and also treasurer. So that helps a fair bit. We had a one-on-one meeting with her directly around the bus station. She had some concerns about what we were thinking in there, but again, we built her. And I think her first comments to me was, we need to find some kind of compromise here. I said, nothing's off the table. We're here to work with you guys, because we're going to need you guys to fund a lot of this. So,
for sure.
We've worked through that. We've built a good rapport with her. And that was through, obviously, we've got the basketball money now as well. Now, initially that was election commitment from Don for $8 million. Yep. It's been sort of sitting on the edge now for, a few years, because we were expected to come at the rest of the money, but we didn't have those fundings. So the CEO and I spent a couple of times back and forth to Perth, meeting with the Deputy Premier also happens to be Minister for Sport and Rec, and pleading our case with Don, of course, and Don's support, to get that other $24 million that we got to build that. So that's going to be taken off, and that's going out for tender shortly.
Yep.
The ocean pool stuff, which has sort of been stagnant at the moment, which I'm a little bit upset about, and we're working towards that. But the state government have previously committed funding to that through Don, towards that feasibility study. So they've clearly shown commitment in that space to going, well, here's what we're thinking. It works with the rest of the outer harbour and transforming Bunbury's waterfront. Yep. So obviously been going on for a long time, and probably even back to Drunk Australia's days when it all got started. But the continued state government investment there, when the outer harbour's done, which I'm not sure, you're regularly around there, aren't you? Just rollerblading out there.
I had there yesterday or the day before. Yep. Yeah.
Looking great. Right. Where's this going to get to next? There's some unfinished business there that we need to see. How do we commercialise some of the space out there as well? And through the Minister for Transport, which again happens to be the Deputy Premier, how can we work those things in and say this is the next step you want to take? So, they're the things that we really want to see. And then this sort of event space that we have sort of created. There's no doubt the Matildas came here because they saw the AFL announcement, and obviously come and made a phone call and we had a meeting with them. Since then, we've had conversations with Rugby Australia about what else it could be. We've got a partnership with Perth Glory, which they're playing 2 weeks time. So what does that look like going forward? And has it been because there's is it just because it's Bunbury and we're getting lucky, and it may well be, or is it going, oh look, they've got a really good team down there who are a pro team, and obviously our CEO must add, obviously Alan adds a lot to that, because at the end of the day he's the one who gets it done. Yeah. But are they saying, well, this is a really good easy council, easy city to work with, so we want to do work with them? And I guess again that's back to that point. Will that continue if I'm not elected? Maybe. It probably just happens anyway. But I
think luck is opportunity meeting effort, and I think there's a lot of effort pointed in obviously the goalpost being in the same position for everyone is a big deal. Having continuity of those goalposts staying in the same position, which would come from you staying in the position, I think is a pretty important thing. And to continue having that luck, especially in the sporting space, it's just obvious, Yeah. And I think, we sort of started the podcast on that note. Sporting's really important to the city. We produce athletes every generation. There's a new range of just absolute weapons in all these different sports going out. And I think that we did that without AFL playing here. What happens when you do have AFL playing here 2, 3, 4 times a year? I don't know how AFL works, if it could happen 4 times a year, but if it could, is it possible? And it does. What does that look like?
Yep. And it's, in my view, it's a little bit, it's a point of difference for us. We do separate from Busselton that way. We're never going to be able to compete with Busselton that's got 100 caravan parks along the beachfront and people are going to go there for their school holidays. Yeah. We don't have that opportunity. But we do have the opportunity where we've got probably a number of the best regional facilities, not just WA, in Australia, and we're obviously focusing on hands over the moment, but hockey hockey's hosted Australia and hockey down there at the Hockey-drome. They've just got some funding council have supported their funding request to do some more work down there. Obviously, the sports centre is world class. We've potentially got the World Underwater Hockey Championships coming next year. So World Underwater. I went and we had the national body, and we had the national body here last year, and they were that impressed that they put a request in for the Worlds to come here. Wow. So it's not much of a spectator sport, I might add, but they put
it's in the grand sense. What's going on?
They actually put TVs around and have underwater cameras.
They have to
a little bit, but it's pretty cool. But again, it's just that kind of thing is bringing if it doesn't bring a spectator, that's fine because you're bringing in hundreds of athletes and their families. So. And I'd imagine some of that. I think they were talking about the World Under-21s or something, so they'll probably be...
At the world level, you also got all the vendors.
Yeah, the vendors, you got broadcasting, underwater hockey, you probably got some pretty fit babes and dudes, mate, floating around the place. So I'm sure the local younger population will be pretty happy. Oh, not me, mate. Kate, if you're listening, not me.
Yeah, 100% not you or me.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, it is a big space and a slightly different concept that I think we need to continue to focus on in that space with the sporting world, because it is that opportunistic stuff there.
I know the political answer you're going to give to this question. How do you feel moving forward? Like, how do you feel? Obviously, there's a new challenge where you do have some competition moving forward. What's the vibe right now? Because I know I've seen what Gabby's put online. I've seen what you've put online. And just comparing the shares typically is a good indication of, like, not only do I support this person, but I'm going to put my name behind supporting them. And comparing those two numbers, it's like, as someone from the outside point of view, you go, well, there seems to be a favourite, a lead, whatever you want to call it, and that's you. Does that give you a sort of confidence? Talk to me about that.
No, it probably makes you less confident, really. It probably makes you more nervous because, I think there's a lot of people saying, clearly favourite. But then you go, well, that just gives you got more to lose. I think 4 years ago, there's 11 candidates. You're going to go, what's going to happen? So whatever happens, happens. And you kind of just let it run. When it's like,
you say 11 candidates for mayor?
Yep.
Fuck, that's crazy, dude. That's so cool.
Yeah, 11 for mayor.
How many of them put their name in the last 10 minutes of bloody...
I can't remember exactly there, but definitely not on the last day. And both the current candidates ran 4 years ago, so it's not something new for them. They both clearly had aspirations previously, so they both ran. So I guess in local government, I don't think you can have a... We've seen what's happened across the world in political things. I think, in fact, I can tell you, my brother had a crack on Donald Trump when he was paying 51 to 1 12 years ago, whenever he won the first thing, because he's like, I was thinking it was the exact same thing you're saying there. Like, all these people were saying he's got no chance, but you're watching rallies and there's 100,000 people there.
Yeah.
He's like, this is silly. Why is he paying 51 to 1? Because it wasn't normal for him to win, but clearly he was pretty happy and made a few dollars out of it. So how can you have a favourite in a political position where, like I appreciate what you're saying, there might be shares or comments or over this person, but you got to realize it's probably those people are actually my friends anyway. So and most of them probably don't vote too. So make sure you vote, guys. That's great. I really appreciate the sport. I've been overwhelmed with sport, but it's online and social media is a very small concept of the entire thing. Like, how many people you'll see it. I mentioned to one of the candidates who's withdrawn, Megan Lawless, who's just unwell. She's ill, so she messaged me to say, she was withdrawing. I said, don't write it out because you can't. The ballots are out now, so she can't take her name off the list, right? So the ballots will go out about 8 years ago, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was Ron Cricky, definitely one of the Cricky brothers, but I'm pretty sure it was Ron nominated. And then a day after the ballots closed, he decided, actually, I got shit on. I don't want to nominate, and was telling everyone, don't vote for me. I don't actually want to be on. I've got stuff to do. If you vote for me, I'm going to quit. And he was like 100 votes away from getting in.
Wow.
So how much, yes, we see social media and I must admit, socials, can't stand it because I don't know how much to read into it, but there's 8,000 people out there. What we might be seeing is a 500 person sort of position. So it's hard to say there's a favourite in that. So, do you feel confident? Yeah, I feel confident, think we'll do well. But when we're talking about why I vote or why I vote for me or not for me, what I'm probably getting down to is going, are people happy with what we've done over the last 4 years and even probably more 8 years to 12 years? And it's more that, is that something you're prepared to continue doing and you want to see continue? Well, great, vote. If people don't like it and they want change, then they'll vote for change. And that's what will occur. If you look back, obviously, previous election. So last time was a bit of an open race because 11 candidates, so it could go anywhere.
Yep.
Where then prior to that, it was Gary Brennan ran against David Smith, Tresden Smith's husband. And at the time, Gary obviously won. So it's probably the same sort of, and it was very close, mind you, but it was probably the same situation. People are either happy with how things are going or they're not, and they voted for at that time the thing. So that's where we'll find out. I feel, and you get the comments that people, we're happy, but as we just said, you got very different views out there. Yeah. And the people that I'm hearing are happy and having a good time and enjoying stuff and whatever it may be are just the people that are around me where out in the suburbs where the actual voters may be and wider and beyond go, no, I'm not happy with this. I want to see change. And that's what we'll find out in a month's time.
Dude, you impress one person with a clothing order and they tell one person, but you piss off one person with a clothing order and they tell 10. So if you use that logic, and I understand what you're saying, essentially it's like you're being sensible with the numbers. You're not going, this looks really good. It's like, well, that's where the light is. Where isn't the light? And is that contrasting what we're seeing over here? So I understand where you're coming from. When you close your eyes and look at yourself 6 months from now, is it as mayor still?
I'd like to think so. I certainly hope so. It's not, because a few people said, this got to this and that, and it's so important. And look, again, I appreciate that support for people who say it, but to me, it's not the end of the world. There's plenty of other things we can be doing. I'm doing it because I want to see. I'm not going anywhere. I obviously got Cooper and Kate. Like I'm not moving anywhere in Bunbury, so I want to be able to contribute, and I feel that I'm the best person for the role. That's why I'm running. If I didn't think I still had that energy and passion and wanted to do it, then I'm happy to make it here, mate. You can clip this. This will be it. And once you've done that, I think by that it'll be 8 years and 16 years on council. I'm definitely had enough by then. But I really want to try and make a legacy to be able to say those are the things that we've been working on, and when we finish, we're able to set something really in motion and very happy with it. And it's someone else's time now and someone else's view. And by that stage, you're probably ready for that change anyway. So I'd like to say yes, but at the end of the day, whatever will be, will be. Yeah. And I'm just hopeful that whatever the council looks like in 6 months' time, that it's still working, because I'm still going to be living here and still want to see the place going well and thriving and taking every opportunity. So whatever that looks like, it's just whoever's in that role, both as mayor and council, they're doing a good job and doing it for the right way. Yeah,
100%. What's your imagination like?
I'm an accountant, mate, so pretty
black and white, or
pretty black and white. Oh, sometimes I get pretty creative with some of the figures, mate, when we need to make it. But why is that?
It's just a concept that I've sort of been playing with lately. I was actually talking. I have like a closed door. What would you call it? Like business owners meeting that we do once a month, and we're sort of joking this morning about the difference between like your baby boomer business owner compared to like your Gen Y business owner, because we sit down and we're so transparent. We agree once that door's closed, you can say anything about your business, numbers, problems, staff, whatever. It stays in the room. But the whole goal is that if you've got a problem, we want to help solve it. And if I have a problem, I can completely, honestly, and openly say, this is exactly what the problem is, and everyone in this room is just trying to help me. Compared to the baby boomer, sit down and someone goes like, yeah, we've been seeing this in the industry, and everyone else goes, I think from what I can put together with my over creative imagination, is that's what it is that we have imagination. We actually don't solve one problem at a time. We dynamically look at all of the problems and try and find the through line between them so that we can move forward quicker. If that means giving you, the competition, or someone in another industry in a similar position, as much information as possible to help me solve my problem as quickly as possible, I'll tell you what my blood type is. I don't care. There is nothing that I can't tell you, because it's going to help me get to that end result quicker. And if it helps you as well, even better. And I've been asking a lot of people lately, do you have an imagination? And if you do, how well does it work? Do you have a vivid imagination? I actually asked Glenn on the podcast, because what a dude to ask. Apparently he doesn't have the same imagination that I do. Confirms what we're talking about. And I'm not saying that he's not as good at problem solving. He's probably a better problem solver than I am. But the method that you solve problems is sort of relying on how well you can visualize what's going on, And when I look at your role, the more I try, because I still have essentially no fucking idea how you do what you do, because you seem to have so many different pieces of information all the time. Like I said before we started, I can get on here, press record, ask you a question, and you just talk for an hour. And it goes from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And when I conceptualize what your mind is, at any one time, whether you're in a council meeting talking to a member of the public at an event, or you're having, a meeting with someone, you're dealing with the social media shit, like it seems to be you have to live in a constant fluid state of being able to juggle pieces of information with the understanding that any progress is going to be substantially slower than what you'd like it to be, but you just show up consistently day after day after day after day and do what you can do every day. And I think that requires having an imagination.
Yeah, I would never consider myself an imaginative person, Jake, but I know I'm very lucky I've got a very good memory. I do remember most things, and that's important too, because in this thing you just get in, it's not just in the back of your mind to be able to consider and bring those things together. So if you ever heard particular stuff there, it links in this certain way. But yeah, I would say I am much more of a trying to be logical. I certainly, in fact, I have this argument a few times, okay, I certainly try and think things logically. Just don't let emotion get in the way. It doesn't matter how strongly you're opposed to a certain thing because of, that thing. Just going, well, what's the logical reasons why you would do this or wouldn't do it? And I think it brings back to what I'm saying, what we probably said a few times now, is this role is about relationship, but also trying to bring the dots together, what you're saying there, in the best way to say, well, I think this is really good. However, I know these people over here don't support it and these people think it's the greatest thing. How do we actually try and bring them together? Now, quite often when you do that, it's like most things, you've got one side of the story, the other side of the story, you pick something in the middle, everyone's unhappy. It's about trying to actually go, well, how do we just make this? And we just got to give a bit here. Unfortunately, you're going to be in every situation where some people just won't give it all because you're just going to go, no, this is our views and we're not changing. This is our views and we're not changing. Hopefully, if you can convince enough people that the middle is the right ground, that's okay. And I think I can fit in that very well. Like I've definitely, what I've said to you previously, I don't come in here and go, this is how this should happen. I'm not opinionated, and I've got my opinions, don't get me wrong, but I don't hold strong opinions in certain areas because I think everything can be flexible, and you don't get caught up in that emotional thing going, well, what's the logical move? And take that information in and then go, well, I agree or support this particular position because logically I think that's the best fit for everyone to come together. I know these 5% of people are going to be very upset and these 5% of people are going to be very upset, but in the end, this is what we're moving towards.
So I think we've sort of covered like a lot of what your strengths are moving forward with the experience of your time in council, your time as a mayor. We know that strong relationships, very good, as good as it can be, continuing growth of knowledge of, the area that you're being the mayor of. What would you say moving forward, maybe some of the weaknesses that you're excited to work on given a second term as mayor?
Whether as a weakness or just a difficulty is going to be continued time management. Obviously, young family, Cooper getting older, so being able to make those commitments to the things you want to be or want to be active, still doing a little bit of accounting work. So where's that going to give? And which might lead to that little bit of burnout. But, I think I look after myself, as I said at the start, just been away at Bali. So I think having that break away, and it's probably something I do get away. Once you move away from this, I'm not dealing with that. So in that regard, not overly fussed, but that certainly that weakness of being able to that continued time. That's why I'm saying at the end of this, I'm done. Like I need to be done because it's just going, I'll have enough. But, other weaknesses, I think what we want to do better. It's probably a little bit difficult to working through what does the council look like too, because as I said, it needs to be that time, that close bond of council too. So, a weakness might be here, like going, well, if I had, depending what the elected member group looks like, a weakness might be, I might look back on over the last few years and there might be things or certain times with the elected member group where it hasn't gone according to plan because we haven't got that sort of unity position. I think we've got a very strong position with council, but how do we bring the rest of them along as well? So, I want to make sure that works well, and whatever council look like, whoever's on that, being prepared to work with them and get to a solution where we're all on the same page. And I'm not saying that means we all have to go in and vote unanimously and everything, but trying to create an environment where we've got very strong, solid debate, which as soon as the debate is finished, we get on with life and we move on and we, go over to something to eat afterwards, whatever it may be, and just say, well, that's good. I really appreciate your views and really appreciate your views. I think that's something that we probably haven't done great in more recent times, and whether that's, been a bit more just fixated or stricter in a few things, but how to bring that back. But I don't, you tell me, what do you see as the outsider weaknesses I should be working on?
I think personally, like I might have spoken to you in total a couple hours outside of the podcast that we've got to share together. I think we've recorded like a fucking crazy amount of hours of podcast together so far. Like this would push us towards 10 hours of podcast together. So personally, I don't know you super well. I think dude, as far as I'm concerned, like my vibe is I trust you personally. I find a lot of confidence in the fact that you said without hesitation, I'm the best person for the job and that's why I'm going for it again. Like in that position, you don't want someone who's like, look, I think I could add a bit of value, this and that. You want a motherfucker who's like, dude, I'm him. I'm him. I know I'm him. I'm fine with the responsibility. I'm fine with the what do you call it when people, I'm fine with the criticism. I'm fine with people having their opinions. I'm just trying to do the best thing for my city. As far as weaknesses go, I mean, it's going to look like I'm blowing up your spot. I don't have anything for you. That's why I wanted to ask, because also it's not a comfortable question for me to ask or for you to answer. But if you're the man, you do have an answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it's obviously, personal life definitely is always weaknesses you want to improve on. But we're not going to get into those, mate. So,
yeah, no, they're your own.
Yeah. So that's just, but from the mayoral thing, but I think, I want to take that feedback as well.
Yeah.
Are you going to invite the other two candidates on?
Look, I'm going to extend the invitation because I think that as much as I'd love to be completely transparent with my vote for mayor, I also want to get the other side of the story because at the moment I don't have any of the other side of the story. I've only seen what they've put up on social media. I think it'd be cool to have that conversation. As I said, the invitation's going to be there. That's all I can do, And also, like, who the fuck am I, dude? I've got it like a podcast in my office. It's this. I feel like people take this a lot more seriously than what it is, Like, oh, you have Glenn Fitzgerald on. It's like, yeah, because he's seen me completely written off like more than a dozen times. It'd be an interesting chat.
That's why I got to get in his ear, mate. Make sure he doesn't tell some stories from my 18-year-old days, mate. Sure he's got a few.
Dude, I hit him up. I was like, you're like the societal father figure for so many generations because, there's what your parents see and then there's what Fitzy's seen.
Yeah.
It's bloody scary.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, we're pushing, hey.
Yeah, I think so, mate. What do you want to finish on?
What do I want to finish on? I can only come up with ridiculous things. That must mean our time is done. Is there anything you want to promote before you jump off?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered things, mate. So it's we've spoken about it all, but those ballots will start rolling out. So wherever it is may be, but it would be great to see Bunbury jump from a 30% sort of voter turnout to a 40%. And I don't know how we occur that. And it's not just Bunbury. Every single local government is in the same boat. So how do you change that? Don't know. Part of you says, well, if people are complacent not voting, does that mean just they're happy? So maybe that's the case. Just make it a 5% voter turnout then. But I don't know how that happens. But so I encourage, and numbers tell you. And I don't. Do you get any stats on what your age demographic for your listeners are?
Yes, I do. And off the top of my head,
disclose? No.
I can't tell you what exactly. Dude, it tells me I have 17 subscribers on Spotify, so I don't know how. It's definitely more than 17.
Yeah.
So I don't know how accurate it is, but I do know that I have like a 65% male listenership, and it's like 25 to 30.
All right. Well, that's so. The numbers we got the stats on voting. So as I said, 30% voter turnout, 18 to 30-year-olds, 5% vote. Well, that was the last one. 5% of those voted. So, huge part of our population, and the ones that not being ageist in any way, but the ones you want to be trying to represent and give some vision and views about what their city looks like, don't really vote. Whereas your over 65 voters, they're like up over 60%.
Well, this is a subculture thing, right? So I know that particular people who are running for councillors and for mayor, they have their specific subcultures and they go and stand up in front of their people the 3 months before elections and say, I'm going to be doing this. And you sort of get a nice little bite of the voter population that are just going to vote for them because they know them.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. That left me. Oh, yeah. You were saying before about, it's very well and good that I've got 500 people on Facebook that are saying that I'm the man, but we don't know where the actual voter intention is. I think the thing to remember about Facebook is like all those people who leave all those derogatory comments with anything to do with Bunbury, whether it's your decisions or council or projects, whatever it is, it's people on Facebook. And I mean, just the difference between people on Facebook and people on Instagram and people on YouTube and people on TikTok, they're all completely different. And typically it's the plus 50 mums and dads who learned how to use Facebook like 5 years ago and they're like, I have an opinion about things. It's like, yeah, you also have a red wine in front of you. Go fucking feed your kids, So I think that, it's just interesting. Going back to my point, it's how do you educate people to go, look, Are you happy with the way things are? Vote. Are you unhappy about the way things are? Vote. Do you want to see change in a specific direction? Everything comes down to actually voting, you know? And again, I said at the federal election, if you don't vote and you do have a problem with the way things are run, you just have to sit on your hands and deal with it, because the thing that, you know, our forefathers fought for, you wasted.
Yep. No, it's a good point, mate. So, and that's how it should be. So I guess that's my closing message. Get out there, get it done. And that's whether you're here in Bunbury or Dardanup. I think there was one of the surrounding shires that was uncontested. They're not having an election, but it was a bit further south, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, whatever you're in there, have a read, get in there and vote, and consider running as well. Because having a great pool of candidates, obviously, was great to see a lot come in late there, because they're giving more options. But as we sort of said earlier, some of that criticism doesn't help, because people just go, why would I want to do that, and just put myself to get shut down, which then in turns lead to less candidates, less people that they're going to. It's just, it's strange. But anyway, don't do that as well. That's probably another closing. If you are a listener, don't be critical of anyone's different views. You've got nothing nice to say. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Not saying it all.
Very true. And Michelle and Gabby, if you want to come on, here's your opportunity. I'm going to send you both, or call you both today, so you'll know by the time this comes out. Thanks for coming on, Jace.
Pleasure, mate. Good to see you again.
Be good to your mum, because we're out.